viewers, this is Africa Politics Television. My name is Augustine Akubo. Today we are featuring on the show an egghead in the political leadership of Nigeria, a political juggernaut of no mean stature, the National Vice Chairman of the All Progressives Congress Party, APC, South-South Zone of Nigeria. Today he will be bearing his mind on the journey so far in the APC-led administration of President Muhammadu Buhari and the impact of the administration on the lives of Nigeria and the political life wire of the country. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
Today you'll be exploring and x-raying the APC-led administration of President Muhammadu Buhari from 2015 to date. Do you think the party has delivered on its promises to the people of Nigeria?
Well, thank you very much. First of all, there is perhaps a lack of consensus also on what the promises of the party are to Nigerians. I have heard people talk about the 99 promises. I've even heard people talk about even more than those 99 promises. But I was on the political electioneering train of Mr. President in most parts of the country. And what struck me at that point, at that time, was that he predicated his coming into power on three basic issues. He was very consistent on the issue of security. He was also very consistent on the issues of economy and the fight against corruption. So in answering your question, I will restrict and confine myself to those three issues. Now, security. Before the president came into power, came into office, we had a situation where the elected Nigerian government sharing sovereignty, sharing command with a terrorist organization in the sense that the Boko Haram hoisted its flag on about 14 local government areas, which meant at that time that the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federation at that time, President Jonathan, was not in complete control of the territory of Nigeria. Today, that is not the case. In the 774 local government areas that we have in Nigeria, it is only the Nigerian flag that is flying. And that symbolizes the fact that even though security all over the world has always remained, a recurring thing, it can be said that the most vicious terrorist intervention in Nigeria has been degraded. And this is just to show the commitment, the creativity, and the policies, the successful policies of this government with regards to security. That is not to say that Nigeria is completely rid of security issues. We have today the issue of herdsmen and farmers, even though it predates this administration, where we have seen a heightening in more regularity in its occurrence. The government is doing the utmost to deal with this situation, and we can say that the government is succeeding. Now, we now go to the issue of corruption. If you ask most Nigerians now, they have different perspectives as regards the fight against corruption by this administration, and most times it is dependent on their political coloration. their political affiliation and tendencies. But to every discerning Nigerian, no government has done as much as to curb corruption as this government. Of recent, government had even gone to releasing the list of looters. Government has recovered billions, hundreds of billions of naira and millions of other currencies from the looters of our patrimony in the past. And government is not relenting in its effort to curb this cancer in our body politic. And I would want to end by saying that it is not over. In fact, I want to encourage Nigerians to buy in, to key into the fight against corruption, and do not allow the propaganda of those who have lost access to our patrimony and our commonwealth to deter them or to dissuade them from supporting Mr. President in making sure that those who have had illegal access into what belongs to all of us are made to pay, both in terms of justice taking its course and then returning what belongs to all of us to us. So I would say that the president and the government is doing a lot in terms of corruption. I will not say that it has been completely curbed or it has been completely eradicated. There is no jurisdiction anywhere in the world where corruption has completely been eradicated. But I know that the president has taken us in the right direction. Now, when it comes to the economy, things are very difficult. One cannot run away from the fact that things are very difficult. But things are difficult not because, and you know, when you hear people say, do not blame the previous government, do not blame the previous government, it befuddles common sense. It is an assault on common sense. If a father of a family did not take care of what, or did not plan for the family tomorrow in the days to come, there is every tendency that that family may suffer. Now, the reason we ran, let us even interrogate the reason that we ran into recession in the first place. We ran into recession because all of the resources that the country acquired during the oil boom was shared among the political elites, and nothing was left for tomorrow. And so when recession came, this country did not have that buffer to be able to react in a positive sense. Remember that in 2008, the world economy also fell into recession. But because the government of President Obasanjo had piled up the reserve of this country did not feel as much as other countries. But we are feeling the pangs and the pains of recession because the government of Jonathan never bothered about Nigeria in the tomorrow. Everything that came into government was frittered away. The government of Obasanjo left our reserve at beyond 60 billion and more than $30 billion in the excess crude account. Now, if you were to put all of this together, Nigeria at that time had more than 100 billion to fall back on. Now, this government came into power and made much more money than the 8 years of Obasanjo. But when they were leaving, with all of the money that they were making, when they were leaving, the excess crude account fell to $500 million and the reserve fell to $23 billion. It shows clearly that the people were not prepared for our tomorrow. They despised tomorrow, and that is why Nigerians are suffering today. Now, what has the president done? Given the situation that he has found himself, there are a few things that he has done that for me is in the right direction. He has diversified our economy in the sense that today Nigeria is almost self-sufficient in some staples like rice. Like here, we hear for the first time in the history of this country that Nigeria is exporting yam. So there is a concerted and deliberate effort at diversification. That is number one. Number two, even in these very difficult times, even in this time of recession, because of prudent management, the president has been able to prop up our reserve from 23 billion to 47 billion. Now, a lot of people are asking the question, what do we need the reserve for? For those who are economically, who are knowledgeable about the economies, both political and, you hear people talk about political economy and all of that. For me, it is common sense. It is common sense that drives, for me, my understanding of what the president is doing. He is mindful of tomorrow. He is mindful that what we are earning today may not be available to us in the tomorrow. And so there is a need for us to plan for the rainy day. And another thing that you must also pay attention is that there is now a list of items that if Nigerians are interested in importing those items, they must look for the foreign exchange and foreign currency to go and import them, which for me is a way of protecting and encouraging indigenous capacities in industrial production. So now the ball is in the court of Nigerians. We may never have the kind of easy money thrown around like the PDP was doing. So if you cannot have access to the easy money, you have to begin to think creatively on how to produce money, on how to create wealth on your own. I like what is happening in Aba today. In the Aba axis, most of the people that are operating in the Aba axis are smiling to the bank because they are producing what Nigerians would hitherto been going to Europe and Asia to import. Today, those young men and women in the Aba sector, industrial sector, are producing, and they are all smiling to the bank. So, I must say that the president has done well in the three areas that he predicated his campaigns. Now, is it yet Uhuru? I will not say so. I will say that it is work in action. It is work in progress. That's my position.
Thank you very much for the explorative and very elucidating analysis and assessment of the impact of the President Muhammadu Buhari's administration so far. So that's a very, very great one. However, would you say that all these have brought significant positive and productive impact on the economic self-reliance of Nigerians?
Well, let me say that I started by saying that things are difficult. Yes. There are certain areas of the human endeavor in Nigeria today, or the certain areas of the economy of Nigeria that people have begun to see benefits. For instance, in agriculture, those who are in rice cultivation are today reaping the fruits of their labor. Some of them are smiling to the banks. Now, like I also told you, that there are people in the Aba industrial sector that are also smiling to banks, because ordinarily, where you would have wanted $50 to go and import a shoe, the man in Aba will make it for you for less than $20, and you're likely, because of the lack of expendable income, now you're likely to patronize the man from Aba. So he is also smiling to the bank. But that is not the general perception, and that is not the general reality. For us to reverse, because we needed to do a reverse of the way Nigeria was being run. for you to reverse and come back to where Nigerians will feel the impact of your policies, there must be a gestation period. There must be a period of hardship. And that is the period, all of us, and I must stress this is the period that we are today. And I believe that those who are truly patriotic Nigerians, who are not stealing our money, who do not have access to our patrimony and steal them, we are experiencing some hardship. But I know that if the policies of government as it is today is consistent and is allowed to run its course, that it will be for the greatest good of the greatest number of Nigerians.
Thank you, sir. That brings me to the question of popular participation in President Muhammadu Buhari's governance. In 2015, the APC, as an opposition party, came out very strong and cohesively to wrest power from an incumbent government. In the course of the administration so far, what would you rate as the popular active participation of the APC in the governance style of President Muhammadu Buhari?
Let me say that when we came together,
yes,
and moved into the APC, and I speak of the AMPP, the ACM, the CPC, a faction of ABGA, and the new PDP, later on the new PDP. We came together unmindful of our political ideologies and expectations. Now, the APC is predominantly progressive because the ACN, the ANPP, and the CPC could have been said to be leaning towards progressivism. Now, that is not to say that in coming together, we did not have some conservatives come with us. And because you have these divergent political ideals playing out in the way that those who believe in those ideals conduct themselves within the party, you now have internal contradictions. So and you must understand, the average progressive believes in the progress of the man. He puts the man at the epicenter of all governmental policies. He lives for the welfare of the man. Now, on the other hand, the conservative looks out for the spoils of war. For me, spoils of political war. Especially conservatives in the African hue. They do not conscript, they do not subscribe to the higher life, to the higher purpose. We have some of them in the APC, and we have these internal contradictions. They wanting to take over the reins of the leadership of the party, and the progressives maintaining that this political party must maintain its progressive coloration. It must maintain its progressive identity. This has been the struggle. And I want to believe that the progressives will triumph. I have often told people that because of the lack of congealment of the ideological divide, that there is a lot of flux. There is a lot of flux in the political, in the polity. People move from auxiliate from one political platform to the other, not minding what informs or what are the ideals of those parties. And I believe that there are so many people in the PDP who ought to be in the APC. And there are so many people in the APC who ought to be in the PDP. Because what we believe in the APC is not what the PDP believes. We believe that there should be social interventions, We believe that there ought to be free education. We believe in intervening in the lives of the people to make it better. On the other hand, those other people do not believe so. They believe that prosperity must trickle from the rich to very poor. If you make the one who has to have more, he may have more servants, may have more drivers, and so he will pay more salary. We do not believe in that. So that is at the core of the struggle for the soul of the party. The present leadership has not helped. The present leadership of the party has not helped in deepening the ideals of the party. Because if you deepen the ideals of the party, it gets to a point where somebody will feel uncomfortable with the ideals and will take a walk and go to his natural political habitat, ideologically speaking. So, but you must expect these kind of internal contradictions, because I tell you that in any human environment, in any human organization, in any human union, there must be these internal contradictions, even the ones that are not ideological. And also, you must also understand that politics is predicated on interest. Some of those interests may be enlightened, some may be not so enlightened. And so people pursue that interest. There are people who pursue it in decency. There are others who adopt the zero-sum philosophy. There are those who do not take prisoners. Those who do not pull punches. So there are various contradictions. But I'll tell you something. The human development has never been secured in an environment of consensus. It is only in contradictions and attrition that man has developed. So it is not totally unexpected that a political party as big as the APC will go on without contradictions. It is not natural, it is not healthy, it is not good for development.
Thank you very much, sir. With the multi-plural interest coming into partisan politics in the country today, the world is watching out for the forthcoming national convention of your party, especially as an incumbent political party rooting to win, possibly, the 2019 elections. What are your expectations from that convention?
Well, I want to believe that, Chief Bisi Akande handed over to us a very viral party. He handed in the last, in the convention that brought us into power, it was a show of excellence. It was a show of telling Nigerians that indeed that internal democracy is possible in political parties. That is what he did, and he succeeded. Today, it is incumbent on Chief Oyegun to deliver to us a better party than, or a better process than what Chief Akande did in 2014. After all, we have had 4 years. We have had 4 years to have become better. So every eye and every Nigerian is watching Chief Oyegun, to deliver to Nigerians a better process than the wonderful, excellent process that was delivered in 2014 by Chief Akande. That is my expectation.
Thank you, sir. 302 days away from the presidential elections. What do you think are the chances of APC winning this election at all?
Where I come from,
yes,
the little village that I come from, I think you may know it, it's called Calabar.
I know Calabar.
That's where I come from. There, if you ask about me, they will almost call me a political prophet, because when I do permutations, most times than not, I am right. I have done my permutations in Nigeria. I have come to the realization that perhaps in terms of the ratio, in terms of percentages, that the APC will have higher percentage in the presidential election than we had in 2015. That is just to tell you that the next president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is President Muhammadu Buhari. Those who ask him not to run are tyrants, and they are not Democrats. They play to the gallery and pretend to be Democrats. You want to divest a man of his constitutional right, and you want your own right to be preserved. So I think that for those people like Olufalaye, people like Obasanjo, people like IBB, they have no business calling themselves Democrats. Now, the other people who say they want to contest against the man, they are welcome to it because it is democracy. But I have seen the demographics. I have done my permutation. It is going to be a wonderful day in the sun for the APC. I am not saying that there are no Nigerians that cannot pretend over. There are hundreds or even thousands of Nigerians who can pretend over the affairs of Nigeria and will make an excellent work of it. But for now, those who have indicated intention to run cannot carry the lace, the shoelace. They cannot carry the shoelace of Mr. President. So I think that the Nigerian nation and the Nigerian people will be better served by the re-election of President Muhammadu Buhari.
Sir, let us narrow down to the zone that you are leading, the South zone. The stance of the APC in the zone, I don't think is a vantage position for the party. What is your take on this? Are there chances of you winning the South zone for the APC in the general elections?
Let me tell you that the South zone of the APC presents to the APC immediately and very, very descending to the average educated eye, the lowest hanging fruit in the country. The lowest hanging fruit. Let me tell you, there are so many things that work for work to the favor of the APC in the South zone. One is that the South zone before 2011 has always been the zone that that played the part of the unifier, the adhesive that put the different blocks together. The events of 2011 and 2016 attempted to take that responsibility away from the South zone. And today, at the realization that that is our God's given responsibility to Nigeria, you will find that in most states of the South, the creme de la creme of the political elite have moved away from the PDP to the APC. Now, will that translate into electoral victories? Would that make for positive outcomes in our elections? It is us, the leaders, that may take that defeat by the way we conduct ourselves, or we will go to the jaws of victory and snatch defeat. Also, by the way we conduct ourselves. So, and you know that the zone, the South zone, is the most heterogeneous zone in the country. We do not have a single leader, like others will say, this is the Yoruba leader, this is the Igbo leader, this is the Hausa leader. We do not have a single leader. And what is important in the South is for us to have shared leadership. Any attempt to cow because of positions that God has given to us, to attempt to cow other people from outside of where you are, other people into submission, will only bring out one outcome. And what outcome alone? Rebellion. And if our people rebel within the party loses. That is my advice to the leaders of the South zone. And the opportunities that God has presented to us. So we will choose. We will have to choose whether we want success or whether we want defeat. If we want success, the South is the lowest hanging fruit for the APC. We can take all the states if we come together.
Including River State.
We can take all of the states.
All
Of the states of the South. The South man is not interested in opposition. The average South person is not interested in opposition. He wants to be at the epicenter. Because remember that the resources of this country that has made for the country to be where it is today is from the South.
Right.
And so they would not want to be outside of where their resources is being husbanded. So it has always been so. We've never been in opposition. So I speak to the leaders of the South and I say, please restrict your leadership desires to your environment. The moment you step into other people's environment, it attracts only rebellion, and it is not good for the party. So that is my analysis of what may happen, what that is likely to happen in our zone as I know it.
Thank you, sir, for your conjectural projection into your potential victory over other parties in the forthcoming general elections. Sir, the next question that readily comes to mind now is the apprehension that is gripping Nigerians in the wake of the current crisis in the National Assembly, whereby the symbol of authority in the National Assembly, specifically in the Senate chambers, the mace was snatched away by so-called thugs during the plenary session of the Halo chambers. Sir, do you think this is healthy for our democracy, especially now that we're preparing for the next general elections come 2019?
Oh, the incident in the National Assembly is indeed very unfortunate. I feel diminished as a Nigerian that such an act could be conducted in the hallowed chambers of the Senate. And I think that the police and other security agencies have their work cut out for them, and that everyone that is involved in such an assault on our democracy should be apprehended and made to face the law. Having said so, let me also be a little philosophical. My position has always been that illegality begets illegality. The conduct of the Senate in suspending anybody who expresses views that are at variance with those held by the leadership of the Senate is illegal. And you see, our people say that when the lizard falls into a pit, it has become a plaything for the fowl.
That's right.
The chambers of the Senate ought to be where people who are elected by the majority, a large number of Nigerians, go there to express their positions at their various constituents. Now, you may not like what my constituent has to say to other Nigerians, but there are provisions in our laws on how to deal with such issues. If, for instance, in the representation of a senator, you find that he has libeled you, or defamed you, or has gone to commit a criminal offense, then we have our courts. But every time it has become common today that every time a senator makes comments that are not in sync with the leadership of the Senate, he comes under the hammer. This is tyranny. It has no place in democracy. A few weeks ago, a competent court in Nigeria gave a judgment stating clearly that the Senate has no business suspending a member. But the Senate went ahead, in spite and despite that judgment, to continue in its illegality. The Senate itself, the leadership of the Senate itself, must ask itself the question whether the leadership of the Senate is sitting over a body of people, a body of elected senators who are hell-bent on desecrating the law books of Nigeria, or whether they are there to help bring about a better Nigeria. And that there is a need for people to also express divergent views. Like I said in the earlier parts of this interview, I say the development of man cannot be sustained under an environment of consensus. Because if man was very, very comfortable with heat, he will not create air conditioners. It is in his rebelling against heat that he found creativity for a conditioning. So you cannot expect everybody to be of the same mind, of a robotic nature. So I think that there must be a retracing of steps by the leadership of the National Assembly, lest they become a plaything for those who would want to be laughing at Nigeria.
So thank you very much for your dispassionate analysis of issues so far. We'll take a last question and a concluding question. Sir, the 2019 elections is 302 days away. What is your clarion call for the role of the youth, and in particular, the Niger Delta youth? What role do you expect them to play for a successful election in favor of President Muhammadu Buhari's victory in 2019?
Thank you very much. First of all, in general terms, for all the youths of Nigeria, I would like to say that please do not be complacent. There may be a tendency to think that the president is already victorious, that his victory is assured. So why bother to go out and cast my vote? That is counterproductive. I want to urge all Nigerian youths who feel that this president, even though not such a young man, has predicated almost all his policies on the growth and the development of the youth, that he needs to be supported and you need to go cast your vote. For the youths of the Niger Delta, first of all, I feel their pains, because since the advent of this Fourth Republic, the elites, the political elites in the zone, and indeed this has become very pronounced, have not allowed our people, especially the youth and the women, to vote. They've always sat in an air-conditioned environment with brandy glasses, clinking, and writing results. So my clarion call to the youth of the Niger Delta is that they must rise up and insist that they must vote and that their votes must count and be counted. So this is my call to them. I know that they love this president. I know that this president, when we were coming in 2015, there was this propaganda by the PDP that the president was going to stop the amnesty program in the Niger Delta. It hasn't stopped. They said that they were not ready to do the Ogoni cleanup. This president is ready to do the Ogoni cleanup. Even though the president was from our country, from our part of the country, the former president was from our part of the country, no area of the South felt the presence of that government. Today, most of our very terrible roads are receiving attention. We also know that the railway master plan has the South heavily involved. So this president, even if you look at the kinds of appointments that he has given to the South people, this president is in love with the South, and that we must reciprocate by giving him our support in large numbers. This is my clarion call for our people.
Thank you very much. In conclusion, sir, your parting general comments for a more stable, peaceful, united, patriotic Nigeria. And what do you think, after the victory of the APC in 2019, the place of the party after the elections?
No, there are two issues. The first issue is the National Convention that is going to bring, we pray, a new leadership into the party, and the election of President Muhammadu Buhari. Those two issues, if properly managed by the party, if there is a proper synergy, between the party and the government, I believe that Nigerians will have cause to smile. I also believe that Nigerians must buy in. I am pleading with Nigerians to buy in, especially into the anti-corruption policies of the government. I always say that if 10% of Nigerians had the mindset of Mr. President, would be a little out of the woods, because corruption would have been tackled by 10% of Nigerians. I tell you that everywhere you go to, you see people not wanting to do their jobs according to the definition of their jobs, except their cushions here and there. That gives you the impression that most Nigerians have not keyed in, they have not bought into the anti-corruption crusade of Mr. President. My candid advice, my candid clarion call is that Nigerians must, first of all, know that corruption is perhaps the biggest problem that we have. Indeed, it has been the reason we are not where we ought to be, and that it is not a fight that can be successfully implemented by Mr. President alone, except we help him, except we also key in and be part of the process that will defeat this cancer that has eaten so much into the fabric of our society. Thank you.
Thank you, viewers. It has been the political prophet, the political icon, Ntufan Hilliard Etta, National Vice Chairman of the APC South-South Zone. You will agree with me that it has been explorative, it has been supersonic, it has been superlative, it has been educating, it has been elucidating. Thank you very much till we come your way again. Thank you, sir, for coming on the platform.
Thank you very much.